Thursday night baseball 4-game slate on this Thursday on our partner DraftKings. Hope everyone is doing well. DC, only one game today, 4 games tonight. As I mentioned, just a regular midsummer travel day, but even lighter than normal. Like normally you have a nice main afternoon slate. None of that today, just a Orioles-Guardians game that is now, I believe, concluded. Orioles with maybe well on their way to selling at the trade deadline. But 4 games tonight. Been an interesting week. DC, what's going on?
Not too much. Yeah, short slate here on Thursday. Just the 4 games, like you mentioned. Kind of spread out, too. Hour, basically, between each game. So, yeah, a little bit of a different slate than we typically have. I kind of like the small slates, though. A little bit of a different strategy overall, I think, where stacking becomes a little bit less necessary, important. One of those 2 words, I think, is fair to say. And you can kind of have, I think, more flexibility in how you build your lineups. Obviously, you can build your lineups any way you want, any day. But I do think the strategy changes a little bit to trying to pick out, the very best plays on each team, because it's obviously with fewer teams, less likely that one team is going to put up a huge score. And I think more likely that, the few players that hit home runs, right? There won't be a ton of them on 4 games are going to be in the winner. So I do like these slates, kind of digging into individual player takes and trying to, build the best team we can.
The one thing we do have, DC, as we'll get into this, is the pitching is, mediocre at best on this slate. So I think you can make a case for, like you said, going a little bit, off the grid here, maybe 3-3-2, 3-2-1-1-1, something like that. But you can also do a naked 5-man. Naked 5-mans are always fun. And you maybe get an opportunity to get those 3 bats in there that have outlier performances. So lots of ways to go about it. Uncle T is here. VIP is here. Uncle T, new carpet is what happened. So the office has been cleaned. We've got new carpet. And that's just what's going on. So 4 games, drop any questions, and we will get to them as we can. But we'll get the slate started off, DC, and it's an earlier start, too. Keep that in mind for those of you used to the 7 o'clock. But although on Thursdays, a lot of the time it is a 6:40 slate, which it is tonight, and it starts here in Detroit. And it is the Blue Jays, Eric Lauer, 7,900 against Reese Olson, 8,100. Eric Lauer pitching maybe as well as he ever has in his career. Certainly, I think over his head. Doesn't mean it's going to come to an end tonight. And then Reese Olson, not exactly the guy that we expected to see this year based on his performance last year. It's been a little bit of a rougher ride for him. First of all, talk to me. Is there any weather in the Detroit area that we should be worried about, DC? And then give us your takes on Toronto and the Tigers.
A little bit of rain in the area, but, for now, at least, assuming this game is going to play fine, obviously on a 4-game slate, kind of got to go with that assumption because, you don't want to eliminate 25% of the player pool on weather speculation. So as of now, assuming this game will play, we'll just obviously closer to lock if we need to. Back to Eric Lauer, though. I've been on the Lauer train for over a month now. Some of his, some of the key metrics that I like to look at in evaluating starting pitchers really stood out to me for Eric Lauer, specifically zone rate, throwing a ton of strikes, throwing a ton of first pitch strikes, and getting enough whiffs to put up, really consistent performances, right? He really hasn't had any duds in there. It's not a huge ceiling. The duration, you're not going to get usually more than 5 or 6 innings out of Eric Lauer. And I'm not saying he's going to win a Cy Young anytime soon, but I do think he is better for sure than most people think. That's been reflected in his price and ownership over this run that he's had. And I think it's a pretty good matchup here, JT, against the Tigers. I know they're obviously have a very good record, but a lot of that is, behind their pitching staff, which has been excellent. This offense is not really one that I'm scared of. Lauer's been really effective striking out right-handed batters in particular. It's mostly right-handed. And, their best hitter, Riley Green, has got to face Lauer left versus left. Green not very good against lefties himself. So I see a pretty good matchup for Lauer, an underrated pitcher, I think. And, yeah, one of my favorite pitching plays on the day at 7,900. I think he's going to be good enough today to keep you in the running, even if he doesn't end up SB1, SB2. I bet he's not far off the pitchers that do end up scoring the highest. So I'm in on Lauer. Reese Olson, I don't love him here against this Toronto team that's obviously been swinging good bats, low strikeout rates for the most part, but enough respect for Reese Olson, where Toronto, I don't think, is my favorite stack of the night either. So this game is mostly Eric Lauer for me. I will mix in some Toronto bats for sure against Olson. Specifically, Barger looks good, but yeah, mostly Lauer in this game for me, JT.
The park here in Detroit seems to just deaden the baseballs at night as well. It's been very, very low scoring, just anecdotally, in terms of the games that have been, honestly, the ones that we've been able to play, because the games in Detroit always start at 6:40. The night games are rarely on main slates, but it just hasn't been a very good, and it's not a very good offensive park at night. So, all right, we'll move on here to the next game, which, as you mentioned, is an hour and 5 minutes later. This one in St. Louis, DC. Yu Darvish making his third or fourth start back now from the IL. He's 7,500 against Sonny Gray, 9,500. First, a note about the Cardinals. I mean, they just destroyed some people's lineups this week in Colorado. They were terrible. And, in fact, shut out, the first Rocky shutout in something like 220 games yesterday afternoon were the Cardinals. Sonny Gray was, I think, 50% owned his last start out. He went negative. He's projected to be over 50% here, DC, at 9,500 against the Padres, who don't really strike out at all. Can we make a case for maybe this being Yu Darvish's game to get right? And any love for the Padres bats here against essentially the highest owned pitcher on the slate, Sonny Gray?
This feels like a spot, JT, where Sonny Gray is going to be 50% owned just because of the lack of other options, right? Not because he's pitching particularly well, not because he has a particularly good matchup, right? It's not that great of a matchup, frankly, against the Padres. There's not a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. It's just, for one, it's not hard to get him. There's not that many big bats to spend on anyway. And the pitching, of course, on a 4-game slate is, I mean, he's the best pitcher going, I do think, talent-wise. But it's not like Sonny Gray is by any means a guarantee to put up 20-plus fantasy points. And we saw what the downside can be last time out, where he just got absolutely smoked by the D-backs. So I'm not expecting that to happen again, but it does – give you a little bit of confidence that maybe the Padres could get the job done, because it just happened to Sonny Gray against a kind of a similar lineup, honestly, I think, in the Diamondbacks. A lot of low strikeout guys that hit line drives. I could see the Padres doing some damage here, and we know Sonny Gray is going to be super popular. That means the Padres won't be. Does seem like a pretty good slate on a 4-gamer against a chalk pitcher who is not, a true ace to maybe try a leverage Padres stack, maybe a mini stack. If you're not on Gray, at least get, one of those bats in there to try to, take advantage of Sonny Gray. Obviously, if he doesn't get there, there's going to be at least a couple guys in this Padres lineup who have to have done some damage, probably, against Sonny Gray. So I'm with you there. Sounds like you're kind of leaning away from the big ownership on Sonny Gray as well. And then Yu Darvish, I mean, hard to know what to expect from him. It was hard to know coming into that first start back on July 7th, because they didn't even have him on any rehab starts. He didn't even throw in the minor leagues. They were just pitching him in the backfields. And so far, it doesn't look like he's really ready to go. I mean, he's got almost as many walks as strikeouts, ERA over 6, averaging 4.9 DraftKings fantasy points per game. He's 38 years old. He's had multiple injuries. He's on the decline anyway. That's not to say that he couldn't turn it around, obviously, anytime. It's just I don't see anything in his profile other than obviously a pretty good track record that makes me think he's a good pitcher at this point in time. So I like Lauer for sure over Yu Darvish. And then, we'll talk about 2 more pitchers in the last 2 games who I do have over Darvish as well. But I do think he's an okay play. A couple guys a little bit above him. And then as bad as the Cardinals have been, I do think you can go back to him here against Darvish, who, he's struggling right now. He just might be done. He's getting up there in age and the injuries and everything, and he hasn't pitched well so far. So maybe the pressure is off the Cardinals. I feel like if you don't score runs in the first 5 innings in Coors, it starts to mount, right? That we're not putting runs up on this Rockies team, and maybe they needed to get back home here and to do some damage. So kind of like the Cardinals bats, and then I do like the Padres contrarian stack as well. Sounds like maybe you're on that page too.
Mild interest here. Obviously the Padres known for their stellar bullpen. It faltered a little bit earlier in the year. It's been a little bit better as of late here. This isn't a park that we generally love. But one thing I'll say about these Cardinals, they're faltering. They're, on the edge of maybe being out of contention. And with Sonny Gray in particular, there was a game a few weeks back where there was a slight rain delay. And Sonny was just like, I just didn't feel good today, and I was out. And that's not the type of thing. It just seems like if the team isn't contending, that this guy maybe is head in a different space. So it doesn't mean he can't have a good game here, but at 9,500 against a team that doesn't strike out, and you talked about Darvish, Cardinals, for as bad as they've been offensively, it's not really strikeouts.
Right.
It's just that they put the ball in play weekly. So not real sure that, I want to go and get more exposure to Darvish per se. Rocket sauce. Yeah. I mean, what do you want me to say? I don't have a ton of interest here. So it's not that I'm not going to be playing them at 150, but, I'll have some. And as far as naked 5-mans, yes, they've been pretty fun for me. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Again, any questions, go ahead and drop them in here. Next game, interesting game here, DC. And it's the Houston Astros, who've been absolutely on fire, just swept the Diamondbacks in Arizona. The Athletics come in here, and it's Luis Severino. He's priced all the way down to $6K now. And for the Astros, Jason Alexander, 7,800 Alexander, began the season with the Athletics, was not very good, gets picked up by the Astros. Injuries force them to promote him. His best start of the season, which was his only good start of the season, DC, was against these A's. And he put up 17 fantasy points. The lineup that the A's put out tonight is not their best lineup. The lineup that the Astros put out tonight is pretty similar to their lineup every night when they won in Arizona. Maybe a little bit weaker, but certainly not what we're used to seeing from this lineup. But all the Astros have been doing is hitting the baseball and winning baseball games. So I think this game's a little tougher to break down here because I could see a world where Alexander does pretty well on this slate, given what the pitching options are, to where maybe he gets 16 to 18 fantasy points and you're kind of happy with that. But Severino at 6K, he hasn't been good. He's been worse at home. But 6K is a really, really tempting price on this slate at somewhat lower ownership. What are your thoughts here on A's and Astros?
Yeah, so Severino is publicly complained about pitching in that minor league park in Sacramento. He's actually been pretty good when he's pitched on the road. Still not a ton of strikeouts, but ERA at home on the year is 6.7. On the road, it's 3.3. Pitches on the road here against Houston. I know they've been winning games, hitting the ball a bit better, but when you look at this lineup, it's still, I think, a pretty good matchup for Severino, a pretty good place to pitch. He doesn't have to be in that stadium that he hates, and he's 6K, which, I do think is a pretty fair price point. Well, not that he's a great pitcher by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he's a legitimate big league arm, unlike I think the guy on the other side, Jason Alexander, who I don't think is that. So I do like Severino quite a bit here at 6K. Not a player that you're ever going to, have some extreme amount of faith in, but on this slate, I do think he's one of the best pitching options for the price. So I'm in on Severino, and it's really all A's for me here, JT. I'm on these A's bats. I wish it was a better lineup, but they picked a really weird time to move Butler out of the leadoff spot because Jason Alexander I mean, he's a 32-year-old journeyman. In my opinion, has really no business starting in the big leagues. And even looking back at his minor league game logs from the last couple of seasons, one interesting thing about him, he's got pretty severe splits. Left-handed hitters have tattooed this guy. So I really like those A's lefties. Nick Kurtz, obviously the key guy. Probably my favorite play on the whole slate is Nick Kurtz. He's going to be in my core for sure. But Soderstrom, Butler, and then, Rooker, Langoliers obviously have pop as well. Carlos Cortez looks like he's got at least a little bit of talent. He's 2K, can play him at second base or outfield. I think one of the better value options on the slate. Not that you really need one, but I do like Cortez there. So, yeah, for me, pretty simple here. I'm getting as many A's lefties as I can into my lineups, and I'll have a fair bit of Severino too.
All right. I just don't like, Schumann leading off, Gio Urshela, Luis Urias. I mean, Cortez, okay.
Yeah, I'm not playing those guys, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Fair enough. That goes in line with your strategy of maybe not doing the 5-mans as much on this slate. All right. And no Astros for you.
I mean, I could have some. I mean, Taylor Trammell leading off. He's got power. He's 2,400. I'm not excluding the Astros. Even Singleton, I do like the lefties a little bit against Severino, but I will have Severino, I think, on at least half my team. So obviously not going to play Astros against him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Last game. So this is pretty quick.
I don't even know who you like, JT. We're 3 or 4 through the slate, and I don't know what pitchers you're on, what stacks you like. Give the people some nuggets.
You got
to fill the time. Come on.
I think so. This is what I'll say. I'll go through. That's fair. I'll go through the first couple of games and tell you where I'm leaning right now. I will play the Blue Jays every slate with the way they're hitting. This is your point about there may not be a team that scores 9 runs on this slate is fair. The Blue Jays could score 6 and get a couple of stolen bases out of some of these guys. So I kind of like the Jays a little bit here. Not as interested in the Tigers as you are not. This St. Louis San Diego game, I just don't love. I mean, it's a 4-game slate, so you can't really cross it off. I'm going to be way under the field on Sonny Gray here. He's going to be 50%. I don't know exactly how much until I start building lineups. One thing I will tell you, just the first thing I looked at when I was thinking about my pitching combinations and looking at some of these lineups is that for most of the people, maybe not most of the people, but a lot of people watching who, what do you mean I rarely have any takes? I was wrong about Brandon Woodruff on Monday night. That was a pretty strong take that I wasn't playing Brandon Woodruff that I regretted. Fuck you, chunk the deuce. Point I was making, you're using an optimizer. There's a default setting, salary floor, right? I think you want to do away with that on this slate.
Yeah.
I am going to either go with no salary floor or something like 46,000, right? Because let's just say you want to play Lauer and you want to play Severino, or even you want to play Severino and Kikuchi or whatever. Right? Well, you're going to play one of these teams that has a couple of these, unless you're stacking up the Padres, say, right? You play a couple of these teams that have like these 2K guys, and all of a sudden you're going to get force-fed worse lineups, I think. So there you go. There are my takes so far on the slate. As far as the Astros and the A's power always in play. I will say I'm nervous about Severino here. I think he gets steamed a little bit, and Astros back home, been hitting the ball well. I think people may be seduced by this weaker lineup. But flip side, DC, 14 to 15 pitcher points on this slate may be in the winner. So, all right. Next game, last game, the people are debating my takes here, which I love. All right. Last game, Seattle and the Angels. There you go. Thank you, Rocket Sauce. All right. Seattle and the Angels, Logan Evans, 7K, and Yusei Kikuchi, 8,300. Mariners, after a hot streak, kind of going ice cold here in terms of the offense outside of Cal Raleigh. And then the Angels, I mean, yes, they lost to the Mets. Seems everybody loses to the Mets, DC. But they did put up runs in New York. Now they're back home against Logan Evans, who has not been good. What are your thoughts here on this last game of the slate? It's a night game in Los Angeles.
Yeah, this is another one where I'm on the Angels side of really both matchups, Kikuchi against the Mariners, and then Evans against the Angels. Evans looks really, really bad to me. He's pitched okay at home, but when he's gone on the road, he's been absolutely crushed. He's given up 20 runs in 26 innings when pitching away from the pitcher's paradise in Seattle. In Los Angeles here, obviously, against an Angels team that has a lot of power, no question about it. They just swing and miss a lot, but Evans isn't really missing any bats, even when he gets to pitch in Seattle. So I think the Angels have a lot of upside, and I think they're the team, gun to my head, which team is going to put up 8+ runs tonight. I think that the Angels might be the answer to that question for me, given all the power that they have in their lineup. And I think Logan Evans, arguably the worst pitcher on this slate. So I am in on the Angels. I think they're a very strong stack. You can also play, you don't have to stack them because you're really looking for home runs. This isn't a team with a lot of speed. It's power that you want. So I do like the Angels. I think no lineup yet from them, but most of their lineup I think should be in play here against Logan Evans. And then Kikuchi, I never feel comfortable with Kikuchi when he's a popular play, which I think he will be tonight, right? Yeah, he's maybe second.
Almost as popular as Sonny Gray.
Yeah, looks like those two are going to carry ownership. So that always makes me uncomfortable with Kikuchi, who's just been extremely up and down throughout his career. He had that crazy run back in June, but the July results are just okay for Kikuchi. The walks have come back, the power given up has come back. So I do like Kikuchi. I think you almost have to like him at least a little bit. But yeah, I want to be under the field, I think, on both Kikuchi and Sonny Gray, even though, again, not playing as many lineups as you, 150, you're going to have some exposure to Sonny Gray and Kikuchi. But I do think the play is under the field on the two most popular pitchers of the slate. And if you're not playing Kikuchi, there's some good options to play against them. Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, or Rosarina crushes lefties. Even guys like Mitch Garver has a history, Dylan Moore, of hitting lefties well, again, assuming those guys are going to be in the lineup. So I'm certainly going to have a fair bit of exposure to the Mariners here, which I think is the way to do it if you're not in on Kikuchi, because I do think he's going to get some strikeouts here. If he's not on the winner, I bet he gives up some power too. So, Cal Raleigh in particular, I do think he's the overall best play on the slate. One of the first guys into my lineups tonight is Mr. Raleigh. That's true a lot, but given how weak catcher is tonight and how good he is, plus the leverage, I want to get him in my lineups for sure. And I'll get some Mariners in there as well, assuming their lineup is as expected. So some Kikuchi, some interest in Mariners, and I guess I'm the one playing it a little wishy-washy on this game. But I do like the Angels quite a bit. No Logan Evans at all for me.
All right, fair points here. I will drop a nugget here in terms of hard hit rates over the last week against right-handed pitching. Here's two names, DC, that you don't want to play almost ever, but I think you should consider tonight. Yoan Moncada and Lamont Wade. 80% hard hit rates against right-handed pitching over the last week. Sample size about 7 to 10 at-bats. And usually means that the long balls are coming. So
I like the Moncada call in particular. He's looked really good against righties. Weirdly, hasn't played many games, but when he has, he's been crushing the ball, as you mentioned.
Yeah, there was a night a couple of weeks ago where I had a lineup that was doing well, and I looked at it and I was like, how did I let Lamont Wade into my pool? But he actually got a base hit and an RBI, so it wasn't too bad. It was not what I wanted, but it wasn't too bad. But tonight, he's on that hard hit list, and what Logan Evans does gives up hard hit baseballs. All right, there's four games, DC. It's kind of hard to do our normal who are you going to be over, who are you going to be under. I've already said I'm going to be under the field on Sonny Gray. I think I'm probably going to be over the field like you are on Eric Lauer. But I think I'm going to play Jason Alexander more than people just because of the options. His last start in AAA for Alexander, 6 2/3 innings, 9 strikeouts. Again, doesn't mean he's going to do the same thing here. Best start of the season against these A's. So I don't love it, but we have limited options. And if I don't like Sonny Gray, and we're always scared of, especially Kikuchi's price right now, a little bit more expensive than it was when he was chalk and smashing. 8,300, you start to get into, all right, is this a bad play? We'll find out tonight, but I think it's definitely viable to take chances on the Mariners. What are your thoughts here, DC, on which pitching you're going to be a little bit over?
Yeah, my favorite combination by a decent margin is the Lauer-Severino combo. Talked about Lauer. I think he's underrated. I like the matchup for him. And then I guess kind of the same thing with Severino. Once you factor in that he gets to get away from Sacramento, he's pitched well on the road, gets a good matchup, I think, against a watered-down Houston lineup, and is the cheapest pitcher on the entire slate as well. So it gives you some salary savings. So Lauer-Severino going to be the combo I roll most often with on my teams.
All right. In terms of offense, I'm definitely going to have maybe 2 to 3 times what the field is of the San Diego Padres against Sonny Gray, Cardinals bullpen. Other offenses, like I said, I like the Angels. I do think the Mariners are in play, and I'll have more of the Blue Jays probably than maybe the field will. What about your offenses?
I do like I like both leverage offenses. That's the Padres and the Mariners against Kikuchi and Sonny Gray. I think both those teams make a lot of sense. And then the two offenses I like the best overall are the Angels against Logan Evans, and then specifically the A's lefties against Jason Alexander, I think are very strong plays. So Angels, A's, and then both leverage offenses, Padres and Mariners, both look good to me too.
Yeah, Land is in here being rude, Landa. Thank you for being with us. But what I mean is Alexander's projected 11%. Maybe I'll have 24, 25%. It just depends on how things shake out. All right, the people want home runs. They want the dongs. They need the dongs. DC, I'll let you go first, then I'll close it out. Who's a home run tonight?
We need the dongs for the naked 5-man, I think, is what we need.
Yes. Naked 5-man, Landa. We love you, Landa.
Home run call. Gotta go with my man, Nick Kurtz. Going to be taking Mr. Alexander deep. So Nick Kurtz going deep for the A's.
All right, Nick Kurtz. I mean, come on. Come on. Everyone's going to pick Nick Kurtz.
Well, he's going to hit a home run, so that works.
All right, we're going to go with Yoan Moncada. He is right in the middle of that.
That's a better pick. That's a better pick.
Right in the middle of that Angels lineup that was just released. I'll give you a popular one, too. If I had to pick and say someone that is going to be owned is going to hit one, let's go with that. I don't know. I don't think any of the other guys, like Jackson Merrill, I don't think he's going to be popular or owned. I think he could hit a home run tonight. DC, give us another one.
Sure. We'll stick with the Angels. Give me Joe Adell, big power guy, and yeah, I just don't think Logan Evans is any good at all. So yeah. I think the Angels could hit some home runs here.
All right, fair enough. 4 games. Playbook, I believe, is already up. Core plays will be up, probably around 6:15, 6:20 for most of us. Slate Builder will be up. Big Platoons is probably putting his page up. And everybody will be in Discord looking to answer questions for you guys. Congrats again to C-Mac. Good luck to all the people that he gave tickets to. Massive week for him. For DC, I'm JT. Good luck in your contest tonight.